Last year, I finally played my first Persona game, Persona 3 Reload. It wasn't just my introduction to Persona in general, it was a game I never expected to love as much as I did at the end of my playthrough. Persona 3 Reload quickly became one of my all-time favorite games, and it completely blew me away with its pretty intense story, dark themes, but foremost lovable characters. After finishing the base game, I told myself that it was time to jump straight into episode Aigis, but for some reason, I just didn't. Before I jumped into episode Aigis, I decided to do a second run of the base game, so that I can get all the achievements from the base game before I begin with the DLC. And I think this is the exact reason why I waited so long for episode Aigis. I just didn't want to grind the base game again and explore all the freaking floors of Tartarus. But when I finally was done, I was so excited to finally dive into episode Aigis. And now that I finally played it, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. So let's break it down. What episode Aigis does right, where it falls short, and whether it truly lives up to Persona 3 Reload. Before I played episode Aigis, I already knew some things about the DLC, so I had kind of an idea of what to expect. I already knew that unlike the base game, episode Aigis does not have social links, a calendar system, and practically only does have the Tartarus aspect of the base game. It's a much more linear game, focused entirely on Aigis, her story, and the new area, the Abyss of Time. I was really wondering how the answer story was going to play out, since the ending of Persona 3 is, yeah, kinda depressing. At the same time, I was a little worried about the gameplay. Persona 3 worked so well because of how it balanced the fighting aspect with social links and story moments. Also, Tartarus being the only dungeon in the game divided in only 6 really different sections made it really repetitive real fast. I was just not sure if only exploring would be enough to keep me playing. And mainly because it has not been that long since I climbed the top of Tartarus. Twice. So the gameplay was for me the part of the game that worried me the most. I mean, it's Persona, so of course the story is going to be peak. But without social links and in general side content at all, I was not really sure if the answer will do justice to the base game. Right away, episode Aigis feels different from the base game. It's much more of a classic dungeon crawler game, where you just explore, fight, and progress through the story without side content at all. For the combat, it's almost exactly the same as in Persona 3 Reload, so it felt really familiar right off the bat. But yeah, I was definitely right. The gameplay is by far the worst part about episode Aigis. In the base game, fights felt at least somewhat more exciting because they were spaced out between story moments, character interactions, and downtime. And here, it is just simply fight after fight after fight, which was very tiring, especially at the last few doors. Tartarus already felt like a grind in the base game, but at least you had breaks. Every section was 30 floors or something, and then you needed to wait a whole month before you could explore the next 30. It's just one floor after another, and the deeper you get into the dungeon, the more repetitive it becomes. One thing that I do quite liked about episode Aigis though, was that the difficulty was significantly increased in this compared to the base game. Don't get me wrong, there were some fights in Persona 3 Reload where I was a little stuck at, but at some of these mini boss fights, you really needed to strategize about every single move to defeat the shadows, and I quite like that. Visually, the Abyss of Time is stunning. It has a dreamlike, airy atmosphere that fits the themes of the story. The vibe of the Abyss of Time creates a somewhat unsettling feeling that makes it stand out from Tartarus in my opinion. At least aesthetically. In terms of gameplay, it's like we are back in Tartarus, exploring floors, fighting shadows, going into Monad doors, and going to the next floor. While the setting suggests that airy otherworldly dimension, the mechanics don't reflect that as much as they could. I had hoped there were more time-based mechanics involved, like enemies becoming stronger over time, because time plays such a huge role in the side story. Instead, we get what is essentially Tartarus, with a different name, and instead of climbing up, we're going down. Other than that, I quite like the area with all the doors, and this song is kinda a banger. If you're playing episode Aigis, or you have played episode Aigis, you probably already know how Persona 3 ends. The main character's fate is left open, but we see how the rest of the team moves on. Episode Aigis picks up right after that, focusing on Aigis as she struggles to deal with everything that happened. And honestly, this is where episode Aigis is at its best. Aigis was already one of the most interesting characters and personally one of my favorites in Persona 3, because you're really watching her grow from an emotionless machine into someone who truly cares about her friends. Was one of the best parts of the main story, and I mean, she's funny as fuck, so I was super stoked to be playing as her. Some of these moments hit hard. For example, Yukari's breakdown after you defeat her and Mitsuru for the keys. My favorite moment of the whole DLC is, I think, the fight against Makoto. I mean, when you play through the game, he runs from Aigis and the rest like at least 40 times. And Fuka then just says, "Oh, I don't know what to do." And just the battle is badass. That said, I found the pacing really slow. Most of the time is spent in dungeons with small story moments in between. I wish there were more character interactions outside of battles. Like, even the character interactions we do have are mostly not voiced, unlike the base game. So that's a real bummer. One of the things that truly made Persona 3 stand out for me was its emotional depth and the bond between the characters. Episode Aigis dives even deeper into that emotional well, but in a different way. The focus here is on Aigis' personal journey to find her answer and to move forward, and it's incredibly rewarding to see how far she's actually come. As a robot initially designed for battle, Aigis' growth from an emotionless machine to someone capable of deep feelings. It's one of the few times in a game where you can truly witness a character dealing with loss and reflecting on their purpose beyond the immediate events of the story. The emotional payoff really shines in moments like the battle against Makoto. Aigis, who had once been a companion to the protagonist, is now fighting against the memory of the person. It's not just a boss fight, it's a fight for closure. And I think that's what episode Aigis does well. It gives the chance to not only reflect on what you've lost, but also what comes after. How do you move forward when the people you cared about are no longer around? The only thing about this that I was quite disappointed at was the lack of interaction with all the other party members. It is in my opinion a really big missed opportunity for even more emotional depth. The Persona 3 cast was so strong, and having Aigis share moments with her friends after the main story would have added more emotional layers to the story. Instead we got some dialogue that don't really capture the same warmth as in the base game's social links. While the game does well emotionally in some places, I think it is a missed opportunity that there are not more party interactions. I have played Persona 3, episode Aigis, and now I am like in August in Persona 4 Golden, and if there is one thing Persona never fails at, is its music, and episode Aigis is no exception. The soundtrack is literally phenomenal once again. While the Abyss of Time got really tiring, the new rap verses in Mass Destruction are going hard, and especially the new battle theme don't, were really not. But also tracks like Heartful Cry, which plays at the battles against Yukari, Mitsuru and the others, really added that emotional weight to the battles. And I mean, it is a banger. I also really like March 31st. It is such a banger, but maybe my favorite after Don't is Brand New Days. This is in my opinion one of the most beautiful title screen songs in any game I ever played, with games like Kingdom Hearts, Xenoblade Chronicles and Scarlet Nexus. But especially when I finished episode Aigis and I heard this after finishing the game, yeah, I was depressed as fuck. I overall quite liked episode Aigis, but there are some things that just didn't work. The biggest issue in my opinion is the structure of the game. It makes sense that there are no social links in the story, but that also makes the game feel really isolated. In Persona 3 Reload, some of the best moments came from spending time with your friends and seeing them grow. In episode Aigis, those moments don't happen as often, and if you think of it, you're pretty much limited to one area in the entire game. The pacing is also a problem. The base game had a great balance between story, combat and free time. But in episode Aigis, it is mostly fighting with some dialogue in between. And then there's the big question. Does episode Aigis even feel essential? And to be honest, I'm not really sure. Some parts add a lot to Aigis' character, but other parts feel like they just exist to extend the game, rather than tell a story that needed to be told. After playing it and taking some time to process it all, there's a lot to like about episode Aigis. The combat is still solid, Aigis' story is emotional and interesting, and it's cool to see more of the world after Persona 3's ending. But at the same time, the repetitive structure, slow pacing, and lack of social links make it less engaging than the base game. If you love Aigis and want to see her story continue, episode Aigis is definitely worth playing. But if you're expecting something as impactful as Persona 3 Reload, you might be a little disappointed. For me, I enjoyed it, but the chance that I ever will play it again is really low. And I mean, really low. It answered some questions I had and gave Aigis some great moments, but it didn't blow me away the way Persona 3 Reload did, which of course is understandable because this is practically a side story. I'm really curious what you guys think about episode Aigis, or the answer, I don't know how you guys call it. Did it live up to your expectations or completely not? Let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully till the next time. Goodbye!
Thought I knew that nothing stays the same. I guess I never knew how harsh it is to change. I am stuck, others try to move on. I just can't seem to find